Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. My special guest today is Meklit. Welcome back, Meklit. It's so good to see you.
Good to be back.
We were having some good conversation before we went off air there for our break. Those darn commercials. Let's get back to that. We were talking about your perception on the world and how you've learned things through life. It feels like you're very aware and very conscious of your self-aware of yourself in this world.
I'm
Did
trying.
you try it? It's you're trying like all the rest of us, huh? You just make it look easier. When did you? I'm curious. When did you start playing music? I couldn't find that in your bio, but
Well, I always wanted to be a singer, so when I was a kid at 3 years old, I would give concerts on the city bus or in the elevators and stuff with my parents. I would be like,
that's great.
"Now I will perform Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," and I would just, do that.
And where was
Um,
this? Where was
in
hometown?
Iowa, in
Iowa.
Iowa City. At that time, we came to the States when I was about 2 years old from Ethiopia, and we went to DC first, and then Iowa, and then but I didn't actually start writing songs. I wrote my first song at 25, um, around the time I moved to the Bay Area in San Francisco specifically, and it was really because I got swept up in this world of artists of every discipline who were making creative work that was relevant to the world around them, relevant to their communities, grappling with, a lot of social issues. And I became an organizer at that time, an arts organizer as well as a performer.
Was that a
And I was
Yerba
like,
Bueno Center?
oh no, this was long before that. This was at Red Poppy Art House, and the Mission Arts and Performance Project. So, and then I wrote my first song, and then it was like 8 months before I wrote my second song, and then after that, it was just song after song. Yeah.
It started coming. You feel like a mature artist. What I mean by that is that, I guessed when I didn't read anything, I couldn't find anything on your early career. Almost everybody says I started singing or playing when I was real young, and that's part of their whole, the bio that everybody asks about. But I couldn't find anything, and I just the music, the lyrics. If I could read your lyrics, like they're so poetic, but so chosen so well, but almost feels very, very natural. Like they must have come. Did they come naturally to you? Your
S-
writing, that side of
Some
it?
some does, some springs out fully formed, and some really gets hammered. So it just
Okay.
depends.
Back in 2019. um, so I swear, I mean, I wrote this intro, and this album has inspired me so much in a lot of different ways. Inspired this conversation. I'm not a real, um, I don't talk about feelings a lot. Like I'm talking to you more about my feelings and how this album made me feel. And some of the questions that I'm asking you are probably go deeper than I normally do. But I thought about the album,
Hmm.
Ethio Blue, and I started thinking about you. It's very soulful. It feels very organic and like it really came from you. It's you. It's who you are. You got a message here. And if your soul could be read or heard as lyrical music notes or notes, would this album be how your soul might sound, do you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like the there like part of my job as an artist is when I'm singing to be as free as possible so that I may invite others into their feeling of freedom, but also so that like so that there are as few barriers as possible between me and a listener. So, for example, I have this prayer that I say before shows, and it's like I say, may the deepest part of me reach the deepest part of them. And so that's kind of one way of saying in different words what you said to me, like, is it your soul? And it's as deeply as I'm able to communicate with my soul, but some of it is words, and then some of it is just with sound, because the part of the language of a soul is not like a specific, like it can be expressed in words, but sometimes it's better when it's just a raw cry or a
Mm-hmm.
scream or a particular tone. When a singer gets really gravelly and you feel like, oh, that's the gravel that they walked on to get where they're trying to go. And it's like so it's all very mysterious and ethereal. And then our job is to like make it concrete and bring it into the world. I'm going to bring this ethereal life experience into a place where people can have a relationship to it. Um, and the reality is like that's why sound changes over time, because you feel differently over time, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, so well put. I It makes me think of, there's a singer that I've seen in concert a few times, and he lifts his head back during the song, and he just something comes, and he goes, something comes out of his body that's musical, but not me, and he just almost screams, or not screams. That's not the right. Oh, it's almost like it's pain escaping. And I noticed that there's a couple spots in a few of your songs where you use your voice that way as well, and it gives you chills when you listen to it.
Well, thank you. You know, I mean, it's even more live. You know, and when you're live, it's like
Yeah.
that for 2 hours.
And it's amazing how the crowd feels, gets that, right? It's almost like there's something you're feeding them that they need as well.
And then they're
Um,
feeding you. Like the audiences don't always know how much control they have over a show,
yeah.
but they're just as much an engine of like, it's like, okay, how deep are we gonna go? And it's like the audience um can open the channels too. At the same time, they can also like participate in the emotions in ways that also can get really intense as a performer. So for example, like my first record was an EP called 8 Songs, which you can't find on the internet anywhere, but it's I released it in the last days of 2007, and there were a lot of sad songs in it because I was sort of that was like where I was in that moment. And I realized at one point I was like, I think the audience's sadness is kind of sticking to me after I sing these songs. So I had to like learn how to just okay, whatever it is on stage, whatever happened on stage, you leave it on stage and then you go on with your life. And then I had no problem singing sad songs after that.
That's interesting. That's like what an actor says, that they get into a role
Yes,
and
that's
then it sticks
right.
with them. If it's a bad role, it takes them down to that, whatever that deep part they have to go to.
I hadn't
Um,
thought about that, but that's totally what I'm talking about. Yeah.
and you said the prayer that you say, in the beginning before a show. Do you feel like that works? Do you do you rely on that? Does that, I mean, are you, it sounds like you're somebody that believes in, you can manifest almost whatever you want for yourself
Well,
as
not
an artist.
whatever you want,
Well, no,
but
I
you
mean, but you
know,
probably don't
it's
need whatever you're trying to manifest. What you really want, you probably
I
don't need it
guess
anyway.
I mean that's it, that's one of the paradoxes of life.
Yeah.
But I think that you know w- like before you sing, you kind of have to it's more like, you know, if you spent a whole day like on social media scrolling or something and you're like traveling and it's a long day or you like had a 10-hour drive, like yeah, sometimes you need to trick yourself to get to the deep place because you like went through terrible traffic and you almost missed the show and you know, or your plane was delayed and you barely made it and you know, then there's, you know, something happening like you're dealing with some construction on the you know, like you get into a regular state like anybody, and then you have to go be like super soulful. So yeah, you need tricks. You need like you need shortcuts. You know, just
Does
like
it take it from you that you have? I know what you're talking about. You have to give this energy, right? To people that you don't know, and you have to connect with a bunch of thousands of people you don't know on stage. do you find yourself wiped out afterwards, or does it take from
No, no, no,
you?
no, no. It doesn't. It does. What takes from you is like for example, I played at the Portland Jazz Festival, and I drove from Seattle to Portland, for that show, just me and my 4-year-old, and actually, I think he was 3.5 at the time, and um, like we had a flat tire and it was just me and him, so and then we like almost missed sound check. We got there like halfway through sound check, so I'm so stressed, like dealing with AAA, and fortunately there was like a tire place next, so that's the exhausting part. And then my drummer said to me, you're gonna have a great show, right? I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, when this stuff happens, you always have the best shows because it's just the biggest release from all that stress. And I was like, I'm gonna take that. So sometimes the most simple statement from your band can also just lift you right up.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. All right, we got to take another break real quickly here. Um, Meklit got to pick up the little 4-year-old that she mentioned probably from school here soon, and so I'm running up against the clock here. I'm going to take a break, but we do want to ask you real quick before the break, Meklit. You mentioned that album that you released in 2007 that you can't find anywhere. You got to put that back out. Try to find it and
You think
release
so?
it.
I've been
I
contemplating it.
do,
There are a couple good songs on there, but some
yeah,
of
like
them
I love lost tapes or like tapes that things that weren't produced really where you wanted them to be, but they're a part of you. And then your fans
they
become
are.
they look for that stuff. They want the stuff that nobody else can get or part of your journey. I'd say you release it somehow. But anyway, that's me because now I'm going to get all of your albums after I've heard this one. Um,
Yay.
and so the question is before the break, that album that you mentioned with a lot of sad songs, that's where you were at that moment. With Ethio Blue, where are you now at this moment with this album?
This album is very different. Um this album is about like finding inner resilience and like remembering our collective power, and just remembering how much power we do have. Um and and that's what I wanted to say, but that's also what I needed to that's what I needed. You put messages to yourself as much as you put messages for an audience. So that's what's in the record. And also like really thinking about the ancestors, the people who made the music to begin with, and kind of like how when we tap into traditional music, whatever our traditional music is, whatever our version of that word is, how much power there is there, and how we can feel like we're riding currents of power. Yeah.
Mm. Ethio Blue, transatlantic rivers run, current pushed us past the sun. Music pulsed and the beat and flew. The music bleeds. Ethio Blue. It's a new album by my special guest today, Meklit. She's an Ethio jazz singer and a songwriter. She's a composer. We're going to talk about a lot of the other things she does after the break, but we don't have a 30-hour show, so we'll have to cut it down a little bit. Meklit. I love this. It's pronounced Meklit and rhymes with beat. That's awesome. MekLitmusic.com. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.